All right. So let's just get right into this week in Trump. So let's get started. It's now been a month since President Trump was sworn in. God, it's only been a month. And the fire hose of information coming from the administration continued this week, including Trump reshaping the U.S. position toward Ukraine, more civil service firings, more resignations amid allegations of a quid pro quo between Trump's Justice Department and New York Mayor Eric Adams, confirmation of Kash Patel as FBI director, and another handful of executive orders, the courts putting some speed bumps in the Trump administration's way, and the White House posting on X a fake Time magazine cover of Trump adorning a crown with the words, "Long live the king." Oh, so much to unpack. And after I'm finished with this article, I'm going to share with you a Project 2025 tracker. So you can see truly just how much crap has happened that the Heritage Foundation has wanted to happen. And now we're like 35% in. All right, so let's look at the first item. Trump blames Ukraine for Russia's invasion. Ukraine President Zelensky expressed frustration about being left out of U.S. negotiations with Russia and Saudi Arabia about the war. He said Trump is living in a disinformation bubble, and Trump then lashed out, calling Zelensky a dictator, and blamed the country for starting the war with Russia, when it was Russia that invaded Ukraine 3 years ago. All of Trump's accusations echo Russian propaganda. Okay, now, let's unpack this one. So the reason Zelensky said that Trump is living in a disinformation bubble is because he claimed, just like a lot of conservatives and definitely Russia, that Ukraine started the war. Because, obviously they thought they were coming in as these great victors and people were going to heap praises on them, and instead they got their asses kicked. Why? Because even those people who were pro-Russia, those areas were generally pro-Russia that the tanks rolled into. But they didn't exactly like the idea of being invaded. Just because they're pro-Russia doesn't mean they want to be a part of Russia. So, or at least if they did until they were invaded. Suddenly they realized that they shouldn't be pro-Russia. Let's see. And of course the fact that I guess because Trump and Putin think that Ukraine started the war, that somehow that gives them the right to not invite Zelensky. But it gets so much worse. Trump has said things like, that they could have stopped the war at any time because they've had 3 years to stop the war because they started it. So there is that. He also claims, this I just saw, he also claims that both Zelensky and Biden were mean to Russia. They said mean things, and so because of the things they said, Russia had no choice but to invade. Because, saying mean things, it just is asking to be invaded. Even though they were not saying mean things at the time. They were just, Putin even understood that Biden knew exactly the kind of person he was. So, yeah, it's just all sorts of messed up. Let's see. If there was anything else about this I wanted to mention. I do appreciate that Zelensky is standing up to the bully. I do appreciate that. A lot of people appreciate that. Ukrainians appreciate that. So, yeah. That's the other thing. Trump claims that he isn't a great comedian. He's a mediocre comedian. Now granted, Mr. Bean is a very acquired taste, and he's basically the Ukrainian Mr. Bean. But no, he's not a mediocre comedian. And he also claimed that, of course, he claimed that Zelensky is a dictator, mainly because they haven't held elections since the war started. It's like, well, there's a freaking war going on. They're being bombed. 20% of their land is being occupied. How the hell are they supposed to have fair elections? So, no. And actually, I read from a commenter that it's literally in their constitution that during a war, you can't call an election. Oh, and in case you think that I'm making things up about pro-Russians being pro-Ukrainian now, Poroshenko, who was supposed to be pro-Russia, who was actually, there was a protest because he wanted to get closer to Russia. There was a protest that got him to resign and have new elections, which is when Zelensky got elected. And even he is now pro-Ukraine. He is fighting against Russia. He has even posted videos about being against Russia. Because it's one thing to, think, okay, let's get buddy-buddy with this person. But you change your mind when you get invaded. Unless you are the Republican Party. Because apparently staging a coup wasn't enough for them to, turn their backs on Trump. So there's that. All right. So, moving on. Who is the top Doge? A court filing about Elon Musk's informal Department of Government Efficiency did not acknowledge him as the head. But Doge was Musk's idea, and Trump said Musk is in charge of it. I signed an order creating the Department of Government Efficiency and put a man named Elon Musk in charge, he said in Miami this week. Now, obviously, they know there's somebody there, not Trump, but there's somebody there who knows that it's problematic to have Elon Musk being the head of the department, of being the head of Doge. They know that there is a lot of problems with that. So they're trying to distance themselves. That doesn't change the fact that it was his fucking idea and he named it Doge because of his favorite meme coin, which is the Dogecoin. So there is that. All right. Doge, now in its third week of finding drastic cuts to make to the federal government, which there is a lot to be said for that, continued to make abrupt firings, embedded itself at key agencies, and signaled there's more to come. The head of the Social Security Administration resigned after a dispute with Doge over access to recipient information. Okay, so Now, there's a lot of fact checkers who are finding out that their cuts aren't as drastic as they are making it out to be, that they're being they're claiming far more victory than what they actually have, especially since a lot of the things they claim that they're finding you can get on usaspending.gov. It's public information, so it's not like if this was fraud, waste, and abuse, don't you think somebody would have figured that out? Because, you know, it's public access. So there is that. Now, they continue to make abrupt firings, and they're abrupt because people aren't given any warning. They're just suddenly cut off. And like I've mentioned previously, they've been firing people that now they're desperately trying to rehire because they found out, oops, we actually need these people. Because that's what you get when you are, happy about cutting the government because you want to cut waste and everything. And you don't bother to think whether the people who you're firing might actually have an important job. Because that would require deeper thinking, which none of these people have shown they have a capacity for. All right, embedded itself in key agencies. I've mentioned that, and I'll probably get more into it when I do the Project 2025 tracker. And signaled there's more to come. Let's see. The IRS is, I think, firing 6,000 workers this week. The head of the Social Security Administration, like I said, resigned because this person wouldn't give the Doge bags access to the Social Security system. So they wouldn't have access to things like, who's getting paid how much Social Security, their banking information, because, a lot of these things are direct deposit. So, yeah. Yeah, imagine that somebody wants to protect a government system from a bunch of people who don't know their ass from the hole in the ground, who want to have access. They weren't elected. They didn't get confirmed to anything. They are just there. They just exist. Led by the richest man in the world, who I guess thinks that people getting Social Security is bad. I mean, I honestly have, I understand why he goes after certain projects, certain programs, because God forbid they might actually discover that he's doing bad stuff. But Social Security, a lot, people pay into Social Security. It's not like the government magics this money out of nowhere. People pay into it. If you look on your paycheck, it will take out money for Social Security. So it's not like it's an entitlement program the way entitlement was meant to be. Entitlement is that you are entitled to that money because it's your own fucking money. So, Musk has claimed big savings and even floated the idea of a $5,000 dividend checks to people. But the math on Musk's group's claimed savings doesn't add up, according to an NPR investigation. And I think other fact checkers have discovered this too. A lot of what Doge is doing is provocative, and Trump is well aware of optics. Speaking of Trump's attention to optics, that was highlighted earlier in the week when Trump did laps in the presidential limo at the Daytona 500 and flew Air Force One around the stadium. Yeah, because nothing says, caring about waste, fraud, and abuse than taking vehicles that are taxpayer funded for joyrides. Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. Not to mention, there was another important thing that Trump should have been doing that day. I'm literally blanking on what it was, but it was something that. Oh, yeah, I think it was the Kentucky floods. I think it was that. I'm not sure now. But it was something that was some disaster happened. And if any Democrat had done laps at Daytona 500 instead of going to the disaster zone, Republicans would be losing their minds. But because Trump does it, oh, that's just well and dandy. All right. The Justice Department cited in court that the New York mayor's ability to curtail illegal immigration in the city would be hampered if he were to be prosecuted. Deputy Acting Attorney General Emil Bova said in a memo that letting Adams off the hook for now was not about the merits of the charges against him, but that the pending prosecution unduly restricted Mayor Adams' ability to devote full attention and resources to the illegal immigration and violent crime that escalated under the policies of the prior administration. So just think about that. We want a corrupt mayor in power because he can help us. How dare you indict him? Yeah, that's basically saying to Eric Adams, we have the mayor of New York by the balls. Because the case, they wanted to dismiss it without prejudice, which means that they could totally indict him again. So basically, it's a threat. As long as you do what we ask, you're free and clear. The second you do something we don't like, we're indicting you. Yeah, not a quid pro quo at all. Prosecutors at the department resigned last week over this. This week, 4 deputy mayors in Adams' office also stepped down, and New York Governor Kathy Hochul said she will not use her powers to oust him from office, but will push for legislation to put more guardrails on the mayor's independence. Yeah, that'll show him. I mean, let's just, get someone who doesn't follow laws to follow laws. Uh-huh. Yeah. That works. Anyway, let's take this line by line. Prosecutors at the department resigned last week over this. So amongst those prosecutors was a woman who literally was just put in the office. And she was, the poster child of the Republican Party. She clerked for Brett Kavanaugh before he became a Supreme Court justice. She was a member of the, I'm trying to think of that, not Heritage Foundation. It starts with an F. Shoot. But anyway, one of those darling conservative groups. She's hardly a bleeding heart liberal. And she resigned because she actually cares about the rule of law more than her party. So, yeah. And now 4 deputy mayors in Adams' office also stepped down. So even if, okay, great, he hasn't been indicted, he can't do shit. I don't like that Kathy Hochul won't oust him because, like I said, let's curtail his power. Okay, great. Number 1, this is just for one mayor. You're basically potentially hog-tying other mayors simply because one mayor is a criminal. And then there is, of course, the fact that, if he's going to do criminal stuff, he's going to keep doing it regardless of, just like Trump. Okay, great. A court said he can't do stuff. Okay, he's going to probably do it anyway. Because apparently nobody can stop him. And just today, just before I started recording, I got a notification that the judge, because let's face it, a letter was signed to dismiss the case by a gentleman called Edward Sullivan. Yes, Ed Sullivan. And he did it because he wanted to save the jobs of his coworkers and because he was nearing retirement. So he figured, okay, well, my bar license isn't in jeopardy because I won't need it anymore. But still, a judge would have to sign off on it. A judge just decided to drop the case indefinitely. I mean, why are these people so afraid of Trump? They are so scared of Trump. Stand up to him, you cowards. An autocrat can't be an autocrat unless he has people willing to do his shit. Okay. So let's go over the day-by-day details. Sunday, Trump takes laps at Daytona 500 in the Beast and on AF-1, or Air Force One. And the Beast is the code name of the presidential limo. All right, then on Monday, Trump names Ed Martin his nominee to be U.S. Attorney in Washington. Martin, a conservative lawyer who backed the Stop the Steal movement, trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election, had already been acting in that role. Yeah, that's not worrisome at all. Not at all. And I hear he has absolutely zero experience, which that's a running theme when it comes to Trump's picks. Roughly 400 people were fired at the Federal Aviation Administration, including some with roles supporting air safety. Right, because the best way to deal with the fact that planes are crashing left and right in the U.S. right now is to cut air safety even more. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? I have heard, however, that he wants to cut corners with his new Air Force One planes. And in that regard, I'm like, yes, go ahead. Cut corners all you want. Please, please, please do that one. Will I think that that'll solve our problems? No. Do I think he deserves it? Yes. The New York Times reports Trump pushed for a merger between the PGA, which is the Professional Golf Association, and the Saudi-backed Live Golf, noting that Trump has a financial interest in Live Golf. I'm not at all surprised. That doesn't surprise me one freaking bit. Not at all. Actually, I think there's a Live Golf tournament in Mar-a-Lago. All right. Moving on. Legal filings from the administration shows Musk is not officially running Doge. Agency heads have to be congressionally confirmed. And it's not a fucking agency anyway. Because you know what also needs to go through Congress? Agencies. They don't just grow on trees. The president can't just will them into existence. Congress has to get involved. Let's see, this is Tuesday. The head of the Social Security Administration resigns after a disagreement with Doge, wanting to access recipient information. Because, well, yeah, we have a bunch of babies, barely out of high school. These are not government employees, and we have the biggest baby, well, not the biggest, but one of the biggest babies of them all leading them, even though they're trying to say he's not, even though he is. 4 deputies in the New York Mayor Eric Adams' office resigned. Hochul holds a meeting in Manhattan with key New York political leaders about what to do about Adams, including potentially using her powers to oust him from office. I followed this race when Eric Adams was first running to become mayor. I didn't like him then, and I was hoping that New Yorkers would, not vote for him. I mean, even if you didn't vote for the one that I liked, because I'm not a New Yorker, so obviously, but Eric Adams had red flags all over for me. And what do you know? I was right, just not in the way I thought. Now, why Kathy Hochul can't oust him, I do not know. Oh yeah, let's just watch and see what he does now. Okay. 168 people are fired at the National Science Foundation. Why? God only knows. Except, I guess Trump doesn't like science, even though he claims he understands science so well because of his uncle or something. So, I don't know what he has against the National Science Foundation, but yeah, let's just destroy science so people can't do things like fight disease, fight pandemics, fight whatever else that the Science Foundation is doing. I don't know. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and other American officials meet with Russian counterparts in Saudi Arabia. No Ukraine. What a surprise. White House forces drop out top leadership at the National Archives and Records Administration. Forces out. That makes more sense. The John F. Kennedy Library announces 5 employees were laid off and were temporarily unable to stay open as a result. It reopened, however, the next day. Of course they're going to want to get rid of the leadership because, Trump has a personal beef against NARA. Why? Because they were the ones who sicked the FBI on him for taking classified materials to Mar-a-Lago. So obviously we can't have that. Even though the head of NARA wasn't the head at the time. But, that fact's never gotten Trump's way. All right. Federal judge reinstates head of Merit Systems Protections Board, saying Trump's firing exceeded his authority. Well, at least there are still some judges who are willing to stand up to the fucker. A top prosecutor in the criminal division of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington resigns after being ordered to freeze funds and criminally investigate grants at the EPA without probable cause. Exactly. I mean, of course this person had to resign because, they want her to do something that she didn't feel, I think it's a she, that he or she did not have feel they had a right to do. Because, well, if you don't have probable cause, obviously this is a part of Project 2025, and Trump is one of those climate change deniers. He does not... Either that or he just thinks that it's fine and dandy because more oceanfront property or something. Louis DeJoy, who was originally appointed by Trump in 2020, announces plans to step down as Postmaster General. Normally I would say thank God because he really tried hard to destroy the Postal Service. But Trump gets to name someone else. So I can only imagine he'll be just as bad, if not worse. Border czar Tom Homan goes after Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a Democrat from New York, for hosting a Know Your Rights with ICE webinar, calling her the dumbest congresswoman ever elected to Congress. He said he asked the Justice Department if she violated the law for educating people to evade ICE. Okay. Now, if you're saying that teaching people about their rights when they're detained from law enforcement, whatever that agency is, if you are saying that people educating others about their rights is teaching them how to evade, then you're just giving up the fact that you don't give a fuck about people's rights. You want ICE to do a certain job, and you do not care what rights they trample on or anything else. You just want them to get people out, and you don't care about the law, which is ironic because you're claiming that you're getting people out who are criminals, not just who are here illegally, who are undocumented, but also just you want to get rid of people you don't like. And I assume that means brown people. Federal judge declines to block DOJ from accessing federal data or instituting layoffs. So another federal judge who has spine. Trump reacts to Ukraine's Zelensky, saying his country should be involved in any negotiations with Russia to end the war. He accuses Ukraine of starting the war, which, again, they did not do. You should have never started it, Trump said. You should have made a deal. Okay. What deal? What deal would they have made to keep them from starting a war? That is not how wars are started. Wars are not started, irrational wars like this one aren't started because of you failed to make a deal. No, it's because one country decides they want to invade another. Sort of like what Trump wants to do with Greenland or Canada or Mexico. Yeah, he said just economically with Canada, but how long do the Canadians say no before Trump decides that, yeah, we're invading? So, yeah. Mexico is afraid of an invasion. Greenland is worried. Well, Europe is worried about it. The Greenlanders are basically like, yeah, we'll rescue them. So, Trump reacts. Oops, I said that already. Judge temporarily stops dismissal of intelligence officers fired for their work related to diversity initiatives. Okay, another judge who has a spine. Musk floats the idea of DOJ dividend checks. Okay. But no criteria as to how these checks are going to get divvied out. And I have not heard a thing, so probably it's dead. FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Association, fires hundreds starting over the weekend and continuing through Tuesday. Right. Because, FEMA ran out of money because of all the disasters. But let's just make things harder for FEMA to get the aid they do have available out to people. Because, it's not like we need FEMA. Actually, Trump did say that he wanted to have the states deal with their own emergencies, with their own disasters. I'm sure that'll end up going really well. All right. Now we're on to Wednesday. Trump surprises staff and endorses a House budget that would gut Medicaid despite his pledge that the program would not be touched. I'm not sure why this is surprising because he said that he's all for Project 2025. So Why would you guys be surprised? I mean, that's a part of Project 2025, which again we'll get into after this article. Immigration and Customs Enforcement data shows it's not just criminals being deported. No shit. Not only that, those Venezuelans that were shipped to Guantanamo Bay, not all of them were part of a criminal gang. I know that's shocking. And they were already detained under Biden. Were not new arrests. So, as usual, Trump is trying to take credit for other people's successes. Trump signs executive order on IVF seeking to aggressively reduce out-of-pocket and health plan costs for such treatments. But what the order can actually achieve is unclear. Democrats called on Trump to back legislation like the Right to IVF bill, which Republicans had previously blocked. Otherwise, they said it's just lip service and a PR stunt. And God knows Trump knows nothing about those. The New York Times reports Doge misreported $8 million in savings as $8 billion. Like I mentioned before, Doge's claims of how much they are saving the American taxpayer is misrepresented at best. Veterans Affairs reinstates some of the 1,000 fired employees, including those that let go from the agency's crisis hotline. And actually, I just saw a notification somewhere that they're trying to do that for the mental health tip line, helpline, because let's just let suicidal people kill themselves. Now, I have mentioned before that only you know what pain you're in. But I also have mentioned that you should at least attempt to resolve those issues, to try to get help, get people to listen to you. Maybe it's something that can be dealt with. But if you get to that point where you feel everything is hopeless and you've tried to get help and nothing helps, then if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. But I'm definitely pro getting the help you need before you make that decision. All right. Zelensky said Trump is living in a disinformation space and that he would like to have more truth with the Trump team. You're so funny. You're so adorable that you think that Trump cares about truth. Ironically, his platform is called Truth Social, but yeah. Trump calls Zelensky a dictator without elections and accuses him of wanting to keep the gravy train growing. What gravy train? You mean the fact that we're giving money to Ukraine for weapons to fight off Russia? That's not a gravy train. What the hell? National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said the relationship between Trump and Zelensky is going in the wrong direction and stems from Ukraine not giving access to their rare earth minerals. Oh, there's a shock. Natural resources and oil and gas to the U.S. Actually, I had discussed that with my mom, that's why all of a sudden Trump is being a hard ass on Ukraine and claiming that they started the war and that if they just, made a deal. Yeah, the deal he once made is not with Russia, but with him. He wants Ukraine to give up all their natural resources to the U.S. And ironically, rare earth minerals are used for EVs. Something that Trump said he hates. But Elon Musk, however, that's his stock in trade, EVs. So I guess that's why. Trump special envoy Keith Kellogg, a retired three-star general, visits Kyiv and notes the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Trump signs executive order ending federal benefits for immigrants in the country without legal status. It aims to not incentivize or support illegal immigration or sanctuary policies. I was unaware they were getting federal benefits, so there is that. Actually, I shouldn't say I was unaware, because no, I am aware that they are not getting federal benefits. So, unless by federal benefits you mean, I don't know, having access to food banks? I honestly don't know what federal benefits you think they're getting. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth tells the Pentagon to identify $50 billion in cuts. Climate and DEI initiatives are to be targets. All right, and I did read that the Pentagon has put the brakes on their firings because they want to make sure that it doesn't affect military readiness. Apparently, someone at the Pentagon, I doubt it was Pete Hegseth, but someone at the Pentagon saw all the oopsies that the Trump administration was making, like firing the people in charge of the nuclear stockpile, things like that, and realizing, oh, maybe we should make sure that these people aren't actually needed. Not to mention, I doubt it's on this in this article, but the FDA, apparently they had a list of banned words that included woman, disabled, I think elderly was one, and the Trump administration called that a misunderstanding of Trump's executive order. And my response is, no, it's not. Just because in your minds DEI means black doesn't mean, or just simply non-white, doesn't mean that that's what DEI means. DEI does mean women in the workforce. It does mean women. It does mean the disabled. What the hell do you think the A means? It's diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. That includes anyone who is non-male, non-white, non-cis, non-straight, and non-able-bodied. I mean, it's really not that hard. Anyway, moving on. Deputy Acting Attorney General Emil Bova, I so want to call him Bovine, says in court that dropping charges against Adams has nothing to do with the merits of the case. Right, because, that's totally normal to say, oh yeah, this has nothing to do with merit. Even though there's same group of people scream that everything should be done on a meritocracy basis. He wrote in a memo, the pending prosecution has unduly restricted Mayor Adams' ability to devote full attention and resources to the illegal immigration and violent crime that escalated under the policies of the prior administration. All right. Trump signs executive order to reduce size of Presidio Trust, the Inter-American Foundation, the U.S. African Development Foundation, and the U.S. Institute of Peace. The Presidio Trust oversees the park at the base of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. It was a former military installation. Congress established the trust in 1996. It's so funny that we want to reduce the size of the U.S. Institute of Peace. The person who claims that he wants to be a peacemaker wants to defund a department dedicated to peacemaking. Awesome. Awesome. The Washington Post reports the national parks are starting to see longer lines and cancellations of things like bookings for accommodations at Gettysburg. It's chaos everywhere, Kristen Jen, a former seasonal park ranger at Alaska's Denali National Park and Preserve, told the Post. I don't know what the next couple of months are going to bring. Imagine that. You fire a bunch of people from the National Park Service and suddenly there's lines and cancellations at national parks. Funny how that works. Trump tells investors and company executives in Miami, per Reuters, I signed an order creating the Department of Government Efficiency and put a man named Elon Musk in charge. Doge's claimed cuts are not adding up. Military doctors, including pediatricians and OBGYNs, are preparing to go to Guantanamo Bay to treat immigrants housed at the facility. Seriously, pediatricians, that is just disgusting that there are children at Guantanamo Bay. The White House posts on X a fake time cover with a crown on Trump above the headline, Long Live the King. And actually, it's technically not even a time cover because, yes, the border looks like it would be a time cover, but instead above it says Trump, not time. So that's not even correct. And the fact that the White House and Trump considers him a king should scare people. Should scare anybody who thinks that we still live in a democracy. Trump and Musk on Fox contend that Musk won't be involved in anything where there's a potential conflict of interest. And as legal experts have said, that having to self-identify a conflict of interest is in itself a conflict of interest. So there is that. In one of his first moves as Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. pulls the plug on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention ad encouraging people to get the flu vaccine. Of course, because we want people to get the flu. I mean, this year has been horrible with the flu. Let's have more people die from it. This comes during a bad flu season and has seen the most number of people hospitalized with it in 15 years. I can talk. So yeah, exactly. Let's just make the flu season worse by making sure people don't get vaccinated so they'll just die. That's a great message. Yeah, they recently downgraded who is eligible for the pneumonia vaccine. I'm already thinking I need to get that done before it's unavailable. Now, there was something else I wanted to mention about Trump and Musk, I think. I don't know. All right. Trump signs an executive order that aims to take more control over independent regulatory agencies that were created by Congress to be shielded from White House influence. Right, because that's why they're independent regulatory agencies, because they're not influenced by government. They include the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the Securities and Exchange Commission, which regulate Wall Street, and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which insures bank deposits. It's almost like those things would benefit Trump and Musk and all their cronies. I can't imagine why they would do that. I mean, let's just run our businesses and run roughshod over the American people by, not letting people know when when there could be something that could, oh, I don't know, kill a person or injure someone. We wouldn't want that now, would we? All right, so now we're on Thursday. Layoffs begin at the IRS with cuts of more than 6,000 jobs in the middle of tax season. Under an executive order, IRS has been directed to terminate probationary employees who are not deemed critical to filing season, an email to staff reads. Some worry that even if employees aren't deemed critical to tax season, such a large number of layoffs could still affect things like the timing of rebate checks and ease of filing. Kash Patel confirmed as FBI director. Flanked by South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, golfer Tiger Woods, and others at an event commemorating Black History Month at the White House, I thought we weren't commemorating that anymore. Trump said, "We're going to be fighting long and hard for Black Americans and all Americans. We're going to be fighting for all Americans." Trump, however, has taken steps to decrease diversity efforts across all levels of the federal government. Trump also wondered aloud if he should run for a third term. "Should I run again? You tell me." The crowd breaks into a chant of 4 more years. Yeah, that's not cult-like at all. No, not at all. All right. You know, it's really rich to claim that you're going to help Black Americans, but at the same time, do everything in your power to get rid of the programs that actually help Black Americans. Yeah, that's very rich. Hochul says at a press conference she will push for more guardrails on Adams' mayorship, but won't use extraordinary powers to remove him from office. I don't know why. I mentioned that before and I still don't know why. CNN polls shows declining approval for Trump, thank God, especially with specific groups like Black, Latino, and young voters, and most don't think Trump is doing enough to address prices. Exactly. Trump was put in office to lower prices, and he isn't doing that. Actually, I believe it's the FDA that researches the bird flu. They fired a lot of those workers researching bird flu because it's not like we're in the middle of a pandemic or anything with egg prices sky high because there aren't enough eggs. Like I said in a previous video, Turkey has shipped over eggs because the U.S. has so few. So, yeah, let's just, make it harder. But, yeah, that's supposed to address prices, apparently. Not to mention Trump's tariff war. That's not going to lower prices anytime soon. Elon Musk brandishes a chainsaw at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, to underscore how he slashed the federal workforce. Does he fucking think he's Milei? I mean, they're both certifiably insane, that's true. So maybe he does. So that is all I have with this. But there was something that happened today that I want to mention. Oh, yes. You know that you lost the plot when actual Nazis in France, and by actual Nazis, I'm talking about the National Front, I think they're still called the National Front, when their leader, decides to not speak at CPAC because Steve Bannon did a Nazi salute. You lost the plot there because even actual Nazis know that it's bad form to do a Nazi salute. It's bad enough that they make it pretty damn obvious. They don't want to make it just painfully obvious. So, yeah. Yeah, CPAC has completely lost its mind. So anyway, that is the end of that article. So now I'm going to, actually, no, I'm not going to show you the website. I'm just going to go over it. But there is this website called Project 2025 Tracker. And I actually put this link in the community post. And we have made 35% progress. 35% progress. And let's just go over first the objectives that were completed. Let me just make this bigger so I don't have to cut off my head. All right. So, in no particular order, this is out of the Department of Defense. Reinstate service members who were fired due to their refusal to comply with COVID-19 vaccine mandate. Abolish DEI offices in the Defense Department and military. I mentioned before, recruitment is down. Why would you want to make sure that even fewer people join the military? But anyway. Deploy active duty personnel and National Guardsmen to the border. Direct the military to assist in building border wall. Prohibit any funding for treatment for gender dysphoria for military members. Because, why would we want military members who are mentally fit? Nah, we wouldn't want that. Prohibit abortion travel funding. Again, why are we telling our military you have to choose between being in the military and having a life? Because abortions unfortunately happen. So, yeah. Let's see if there's anything else. Rescind Biden-era Title IX rules that strengthen the prosecution of sexual assault and discrimination claims. Okay, let me read that again. Rescind Biden-era Title IX rules that strengthen the prosecution of sexual assault and discrimination claims. These from the same people who are crying about men and women's sports and, we have to protect women and girls. Fuck that. You're making it harder to prosecute sexual assault, but you're so concerned about women and girls? That's bullshit. This just proves that line is bullshit. Because if you actually did care, you wouldn't be doing this shit. All right. Oh yeah, we're in the education department now. Rescind Biden-era guidance that added a non-binary option in civil rights data collected from schools. Okay. I'm not sure why you would do that. But fine. I guess, in that case, people can leave that option blank and, screw you. All right. I'm sure then people will wonder why the math doesn't add up. If they can do math. All right. Issues, rules, and guidance that sex is properly understood as a fixed biological fact. Except for the part that it's not a fixed biological fact. As I've mentioned before, intersex people exist. And ask yourselves, how do they decide which biological sex they identify as? Because it sure as hell, it doesn't have anything to do with what bits and bobs they have. because they have of both sexes. That's why they're intersex. So just ask yourself, how do they decide that if it's a fixed biological fact? By that notion, if it's a fixed biological sex fact and intersex exists, then we have a third sex, intersex. But no, we don't. We just have been told that there's two biological sexes. So you figure that out. Okay. So, ban critical race theory in schools that receive federal funding. Okay, like I've mentioned before, critical race theory is a Harvard law class. So there's that. But basically it's saying that they cannot talk about racism. That's what it's code for. Critical race theory is just telling people that racism exists, racism has always existed, and these are all the ways that racism has affected non-white people. And if you end up feeling guilty about it, that's on you. Because do I think that white people have treated non-white people shitty over the years? Yes. Do I feel guilty about it? No. Because I wasn't the one who did it. Do I acknowledge that white people throughout history were the ones who were racist and did horrible things to people? Absolutely. Those do not have to happen. You do not have to feel guilty about it. It's just a fact. Expand school choice, i.e., public funding for private schools, which they wouldn't be private schools if they got public funding. The whole point of public funding is they go to public schools. Private schools are for people who don't want to send their kids to public school. All this is going to do, the people who think that public education is shitty, taking money away from public schools is just going to make public schools shittier. So I'm not sure how you think. I mean, most rational, sane people would think, the public education system sucks. Maybe they need to have more money implemented in it so they could improve the schools. Not, let's take the money away and put it into other schools because this is just not worth it or something. Anyway, abandon the redefinition of sex to sexual orientation and gender identity in Title IX. What? Is that even a thing? I mean, I guess they mean in forms identify your sex, but what schools are asking for someone's sexual orientation? I mean, granted, there might be clubs for LGBT plus and whatnot, depending on what school we're talking about, high school, college, whatever. But I do not recall, now it's been a while since I've been in school, but I do not recall them asking my sexual orientation in school. But anyway, I mean, I guess it's possible for data purposes rather than official purposes. I don't know. I really don't remember. Ban critical race theory and gender ideology from public school curriculum. Right, because we don't want to teach about any type of bigotry. We don't want people to know that racism existed, and we don't want people to know that trans people exist. Because why would we want to? It's not like there are, non-white people or trans people in the classroom, right? I mean, Obviously, the only people who go to school are white and cis. Yeah, that checks out. All right. Now let's move to the energy department. Focus energy policy on critical minerals. All right. Expand energy exploration and extraction in Alaska. Open National Petroleum Reserve to leasing and development. So we want to get rid of our reserve when we had sky high gas prices. You know how Biden brought it down by opening the reserve. Why are we? And then he ended up buying that stuff back, buying that gas back at a discount. So why are we doing this? And I'm pretty sure that expanding energy exploration and extraction in Alaska not only is it an environmental disaster, but it's probably going to be in, maybe a national park or somewhere else, wherever Trump thinks that there's oil or something. Eliminate the Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management or redirect it to increasing fossil fuel use. Yeah, I'm shocked that they want more fossil fuel based energy. That's just, I never would have thought of that in this administration. Never. All right. Ensure liquefied natural gas exports applications are approved expeditiously without consideration of climate change. Right, because, let's just drill, baby, drill. And consequences be damned. It's not our fault. We'll be dead probably by the time it's necessary. Well, Trump definitely will be. Repeal the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And it says here, no, Trump signed an executive order indefinitely pausing the disbursement of funds. So that's probably one of those impoundment cases, which we've discussed before, is illegal. Richard Nixon made it illegal. That once Congress allocates funds, the president has no right to stop it. So, repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. Well, that's not a surprise. I mean, he's going to repeal anything that Biden did. I mean, he did that in first term with Obama. We can't have anything Obama did that was good. Trump has to be the end-all, be-all, because he's got that big of an ego. All right. Eliminate the Clean Energy Corps funded by the IIJA. So again, these are all impoundments. All right. Now we're at HHS, or the Department of Health and Human Services. Reverse prohibitions on healthcare discrimination based on gender identity. Oh, good. We're making America great again by allowing for discrimination, because nothing bad ever happened by making discrimination rampant. All right. Enforce the Hyde Amendment, banning any federal funds from being used for abortions, abortion counseling, etc. Again, this is just going to make people have to decide which is more important to them. Their jobs or healthcare. So, yeah. So, basically, that's their federal jobs, because, obviously, if you're not allocating federal funds, that just means that no job will cover abortion in your health plan, but also clinics, hospitals, what have you, won't who get federal funds can't provide these services. So yeah, that's great. Reverse prohibitions on healthcare discrimination based on pregnancy to cover abortion. Huh? So the note here said Trump revoked Biden's executive order that banned discrimination based on pregnancy or related conditions. So we're back into the 70s where a woman can get fired for being pregnant. Awesome. Just give me a moment. Suddenly I can't see. Oops. All right. Oh, that's better. All right. Oh, yes. And oh, yeah. All right. So that's the end of the HHS. Now let's go to DHS, which is the Department of Homeland Security. Dismiss the entirety of the CISA Cybersecurity Advisory Committee. Right, because what could possibly go wrong by dismissing the entire advisory committee? After all, if we don't have a committee, it's not like our enemies will be given carte blanche to hack. No, that couldn't possibly happen. Terminate CISA's counter disinformation efforts. Just think about this for a moment. We have an administration that thinks that it's perfectly cool to not only have misinformation and disinformation being pushed out there, but nobody can counter that. Yeah, nothing bad could possibly happen. All right, and a note here says CISA has frozen all of its election security work. Many of CISA's misinformation team were put on leave. And that's another thing. Nothing says, oh yeah, we don't want to mess with the elections or anything more than freezing the election security work. Right. That nothing bad will happen here. We'll never have a Democratic president again because from now on, all the elections will be rigged. ICE should be required to take custody of all aliens with records for felonies, DUIs, and any other crime that is considered a national security or public safety threat. I'm pretty sure that that's already a thing. I know it is with the capital cases like murder, but I'm pretty sure that you commit a felony and your ass gets deported. So basically, this is an executive order looking for a problem. Okay. So, increased use of civil search warrants for workplace raids. You know, aren't these the same people who claim that immigrants are just using the system, gaming the system, but yet they have jobs? Pick one. And then, of course, these are the same people with the same breath say that they're taking our jobs. A lot of these jobs are jobs no American would do, so I do not know what the problem is. Anyway. raise the standards for a credible fear of persecution for asylum. Yes, that's what we should be doing, raising fear. And the note says here, Trump went further, shutting down asylum altogether. Because, I'm pretty sure Trump thinks asylum is insane asylums. I'm still not convinced that Trump doesn't know the difference between an insane asylum and asylum seekers. I'm still not convinced he knows the difference. All right, reinstate remain in Mexico. Authorize state and local law enforcement to participate in immigration actions. Yeah, that's why ICE exists. I do not know. This just does not sit well with me. Note ICE is reviving, expanding a program that trains local law enforcement officers to interrogate immigrants in their custody and detain them. I honestly don't know. I would think local law enforcement would have better things to do than to deal with immigration. That's what ICE is for. But I guess on a slow work day, I don't know. DHS Secretary should quickly remove all current members of the Homeland Security Advisory Committee and replace them. Why? The acting DHS Secretary terminated all current memberships on advisory committees within DHS. So, yay. It says acting, so this was obviously before Kristi Noem was, wait a minute, was she even, I think that she's been, since then has been confirmed. So many crazies have been confirmed, I can't remember which ones. Pursue the death penalty for all applicable crimes. I made my feelings known about the death penalty many times. I am very much against it. I mean, if you could 100% guarantee that the person did the crime, then, well, there's still the issue of it takes more money to put someone to death than it is to keep them in life in prison. But at least then you would know you have the right person. How many people have been put to death for not committing a crime? That they were either they were misidentified or racism or whatever the reason is, that they were sentenced to death for a crime they didn't commit. So, all right. Obviously, we are now in DOJ. All right. Avoid politically motivated prosecutions like of people who violated the FACE Act. And the note is DOJ has directed federal prosecutors to limit enforcement of the FACE Act. I'm not familiar with what the FACE Act is, so let's find out. Freedom of access to clinic services. So basically, assholes who prevent people from going into clinics, whether it be Planned Parenthood or clinics similar to that. Even, not all these people are getting an abortion, guys. Number one, they're not all getting an abortion, so you're just making yourself look stupid, which just by being there you are. But also, there are reasons. People don't just wake up one day and say, I think I'm going to have an abortion. Not how any of this works. And so now these people are being set free because of politically motivated prosecutions. It's not political. People who are already distraught are further distraught, being told that they're bad humans for having an abortion when it's literally saving their lives, or people who are being traumatized over something they're not even doing, because people go for other services. They do not go there for an abortion only. It reminds me of this clinic that we had. I don't know if we still have it in the area here. And they don't even do abortions. And they were picketed by anti-abortionists because that's the level of intelligence we are dealing with. All right. Use the full force of federal prosecutorial resources to investigate and prosecute state and local governments, institutes of higher education, corporations, and private employers who... Are you kidding me? You're not going to finish that? Well, it's a DEIA. Let me see if I can find what this is. Oh, this doesn't help me. Okay, so it's just reversing civil rights policies. Yeah, sweeping changes on major legal issues, including voting rights, abortion rights, and DEI initiatives, are underway in the Civil Rights Division. So basically, they're getting rid of the Civil Rights Division? Because, yeah. All right. Issue guidance to all U.S. attorneys emphasizing the importance of prosecuting immigration offenses. You know, I actually read somewhere that there are law enforcement officials who, because they have to concentrate on immigration, can't concentrate on things like drug trafficking or other... Like I said before, you want to use local law enforcement, fine. Get them on a slow work day when they're not going after criminals in their city that aren't just because they happen to be illegal. Because that's ICE's job, not local law enforcement's job. Ensure appropriate steps are taken to obtain cooperation with sanctuary cities and states. Immediately end any policies, investigations, or cases that run contrary to administration policies, including the brazenly partisan and ideologically driven prosecution of perceived... I hate that this thing is cutting off stuff. Okay, let's see what this is. Ending the weaponization of the federal government. Right. But as long as that weaponization was weaponization towards Trump and his crimes, but him going after innocent people who just so happened to get in his craw, no, that's not weaponization at all. All right. Take the position that Humphrey's executor violates the separation of powers. And the note says here, Humphrey's executor is a SCOTUS case that limited the president's ability to fire directors of independent agencies. And we discussed that, you know, the whole point of independent agencies is that the president can't fire them because they're supposed to be independent. But Trump doesn't want independence. He wants loyalty. All right. Prohibit the U.S. government from combating the spread of misinformation and disinformation. Nothing says we're being truthful and that we care about the truth getting out and nobody believing bullshit, then yeah, we're just going to let misinformation, disinformation not just run amok, but we're not going to counter it. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Rescind Executive Order 11,246, Equal Opportunity Employment. And of course, this is in the Department of Labor. What the hell? They're not even trying to hide that they just want white men to get jobs. As long as you hire a white man, they don't give a shit. They don't care if everybody else dies in poverty, because unless you are a white man, who gives a shit? And you have to be cis and straight. You can't just be any white man. You have to be cis and straight. Eliminate DEIA programs in labor policy. That's a given. Return to Trump-era overtime exemption threshold. And this note says courts already struck down a Biden expansion. I'm not quite sure what that means. I assume you don't get paid for overtime, or that you're not taxed for overtime. I really don't know what this means. Let me see here. Let's see if Reuters is going to be kind to me. Okay. Another judge blocks Biden rule expanding overtime pay. All right. So that's what it means. They just don't want people to get paid for overtime. Cool. Cool. All right. Appoint new EEOC and NLRB general counsels. And it notes here, Trump fired EEOC's Carla Gilbride and NLRB's Jennifer Abruzzo. EEOC is, of course, the Equal Opportunity Commission. National Labor Relations Board is NLRB. Got it. Thought of it myself. Yay. All right, let's move to the State Department. Freeze allocation of resources, foreign aid, disbursements, and hiring and recruiting decisions. Yeah, that's the first thing that they did that, caused chaos around the world, because, we don't want soft power, things like people loving us for saving their lives, people, farmers selling their products to the federal government to give to people in need. No, we don't need foreign aid to things like preventing pandemics, because it's not like it's going to come to our shores. It's not like global travel exists or anything. All right. Withdraw funding for the World Health Organization, which now WHO is trying to figure out how are they going to get funded, because, why would we want the world to be healthy and be able to prevent pandemics? Wouldn't want that. That's just silly. Withdraw from the United Nations Human Rights Council, because nothing says we care about human rights than withdrawing from the council. Yeah, that just screams it. Withdraw funding for United Nations reliefs and works agencies, because again, who cares about whether people live or die? Suspend all visas to people from countries that do not accept the return of immigrants ordered deported. Because, we're petty like that. Indefinitely curtail U.S. RAP refugee admissions. And Trump went further, suspending all refugee access, like was mentioned before. Reinstate the Mexico City policy banning aid to groups that even communicate about abortion services. Because this isn't about ideology or, this, it should be left up to the states crap. There is a war on abortion because, God forbid, women survive their pregnancies. Babies survive. We certainly wouldn't want that. I mean, what good could possibly come from helping women and babies survive? Prohibit the flying of divisive symbols such as the rainbow flag or the Black Lives Matter flag at U.S. embassies. Those are divisive. They shouldn't be. People should, it should be a given that Black Lives Matter or that the LGBT plus community exists and that they should be given equal rights. I can see why that would be divisive for people who, don't think that those of us who belong to either of those groups are actually human. Okay, now let's go to the Department of Interior. Revoke rules regarding predator control and bear baiting. Okay, what? I have absolutely no idea what this means. All right, let's see what this is. Okay, so is this just about stealing all of Alaska's resources till they're run dry? Where are we going with the predators? I have no idea. Let me try this. I have no idea. No clue whatsoever. I guess it's feel free to kill animals at will, which I think Don Jr. and Eric were in mind when they did that. I do not know. I honestly do not know. Let me see if Project 2025 can give me more information. Nope. Nope, it does not. It just sends me to the front page. Okay. Well, moving on. Vacate Biden-era order protecting 30% of U.S. land and water by 2030. Right, because more oceanfront property or something. I don't know. Immediately roll back Biden's executive orders that prioritize addressing climate change. Well, that checks out. I mean, again, he doesn't believe climate change is happening. Close the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Treat the participation in any DEI initiatives as per se grounds for termination. So that's great. That's from the Department of Treasury. Withdraw from the Paris Agreement and United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Reverse support for consideration of environmental, societal, and governance principles. All right, the note here says Trump rescinded a Biden order directing an evaluation of climate-related financial risk. Right, because we wouldn't want people who are buying property to know that climate change could make their property worthless because they are destined to be in a flood zone or a hurricane would hit or whatever the financial risk is. So yeah, wouldn't want potential home buyers to know what they're getting. Nah. Reduce fuel economy requirements. Of course they want to reduce fuel economy requirements. They don't care if our air is unbreathable. They don't care about that at all. They just want whatever is cheaper. And it's cheaper for them to pollute at will, and if the rest of us have to pay more in medical bills because of whatever issues it causes, oh well. Undermine California waiver reducing pollution from vehicles. Of course, like I said, pollute as much as you want. Eliminate the use of the social cost of carbon. Again, because, polluting is fun. It's cheap. Let's just keep doing it. Stop all grants to advocacy groups. So this notes grants to programs like climate pollution reduction grants and recycling education and outreach was frozen. Because again, why would we want people to know about the environment and climate and what's happening in the world? Eliminate the Office for Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights. All right. Prioritize security clearance reform by streamlining the clearance process. And Trump ordered temporary clearances be given to chosen staffers. I'm not sure I know what that means, but it can't be good. I'm just going to say right there, it cannot be good. All right. Revoke the security clearances of senior intelligence officials who leak information. And it notes here that Trump revoked the security clearances of 50 former officials. Basically, this is not leak information like leak to another country or put our security at risk. It's people who leak information about what a horrible person Trump is and what terrible things he and Musk are doing. Those are the leaks that he doesn't want. All right. I am never going to be done with this. Wow, I'm an hour and a half in. I'm surprised. I wonder if anybody's still watching. All right. And now, under the Personnel Department, institute a hiring freeze, which we know he's done. Reschedule thousands of federal civil service workers, making it easier to fire career civil servants, or Schedule F, which I've seen comments of people not believing Schedule F exists. Well, here's proof that it fucking exists. And you should see by all the firings and layoffs that it does indeed exist, especially the flimsy reasoning. especially when they have to go back and rehire people because, oopsies, we fired people who we need. Rescind Biden's executive order 14,003, which revoked Trump's Schedule F order and made it easier to discipline federal employees. Rescind the SEC's climate disclosure rule. Right, because we certainly wouldn't want businesses to tell others how much pollution they're doing. At least I think that's what it means. Acting Chairman Mike Ueda noted the courts that the SEC will no longer defend the climate-related disclosure rule. All right, USAID cut the budget of USAID, which they did. They've already covered up the sign for USAID. Effectively, the department doesn't exist anymore. Rescind USAID policies that address climate change and help countries transition away from fossil fuels. Right, because everybody should have polluted environments, and for those who happen to live on small islands, oh well, let's just hasten your demise. Cut international disaster assistance funding for programs in Yemen, Syria, and Afghanistan. Are you kidding me? There's a reason that those programs exist. I mean, it's not like it's going to like the Taliban or Assad's regime when Assad still was the head of Syria. It's not going to the bad guys. It's going to the people who need disaster relief. But, again, Trump wants to be cruel to everybody. He's an equal opportunity cruelty person. Prioritize funding for faith-based organizations. The administration issued a waiver for Samaritan's Purse, an evangelical Christian organization. Now, I have nothing against faith-based organizations, especially if they understand that if they're the only game in town, you're not going to just get people who subscribe to your version of faith. As long as you understand that, that's fine. But once you start trying to convert people, I have a problem with that. Because, again, not everybody sees faith the way you do. And let's face it, we're talking Christianity. I doubt that any non-Christian organizations would receive this waiver. All right. Eliminate Chief Diversity Officer at USAID. Remove DEI requirements. Eliminate funding for partners that promote discriminatory DEI practices. It's not discriminatory. This isn't let's hire a less qualified black person over a highly qualified white person. This is, let's just say you hired, that's what we did with the presidency. We hired a unqualified white person over a very highly qualified black woman. So yeah, that would be your idea of DEI, which you somehow don't have a problem when it's on your side. That's not what DEI means. DEI means let's not hire the less qualified white guy over a highly qualified black person simply because this person is white. That is what DEI means. I don't know why this is so hard for people to understand. And I'm talking about people who are genuinely, if not actively racist, aren't trying to be racist. But, yeah. Prohibit USAID from funding sexual reproductive health and reproductive rights and gender equality programs. Right, because we certainly wouldn't want women and girls in areas where the men have complete and utter control over their lives to have any control over their lives. All right, require regulatory analysis and OIRA review of the historically independent agencies. Right. Yeah, nothing could possibly go wrong about that. Remove the words sexual orientation and gender identity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, abortion, reproductive health, and gender equality from every federal. And again, it's cut off, and I don't have a way of bringing it up. I do not know why this website does that. So basically, remove all words that don't benefit white men, basically. White, cis, straight men, that is. Instruct the CEQ to rewrite its regulations implementing NEPA. And the note here says, Trump rescinded the 1977 order giving CEQ authority to issue these regulations and instructs the chair of CEQ to, within 30 days, propose rescinding all regulations the council has issued to date. Okay, that doesn't tell me anything. No idea what that is. All right, eliminate the interagency working group on the social cost of carbon. So, yeah. Again, let's just pollute. Issue an executive order abolishing the Office of Domestic Climate Policy. And the note here says, Trump's executive order rescinds Biden executive order, which created the Office of Domestic Climate Policy. Because again, he's a climate change denier. Why would we need an Office of Domestic Climate Policy? All right, revoke EO, executive order, 1420, which is 14,020. I'll get it right. I am not Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know how to read numbers. 14,020, which established the Gender Policy Council. Right, because again, we don't want women, rising up above men. I mean, who ever heard of such a thing? All right, cut off government contracts to entities that enforce a woke agenda. Whatever the hell that means. I've no clue, but I'm pretty sure it has to do with DEI and the LGBT plus community. So there's that. All right. Yes, I didn't realize there were so many. And this is all stuff he's completed so far. I haven't even gotten to the in progress stuff. All right. Given political appointees the power to personally review and authorize appropriated funding. So, and the note here says, DOGE is unilaterally cutting programs funded by Congress, which, as I've mentioned before, is illegal. For so many reasons. Oh, goody, we're almost done with the completed stuff. Clear out the NSC, replace all essential detailees with staff assigned to the new president's priorities. Right. Basically, let's just staff all agencies with loyalists. Give the Office of Personnel Management, the White House, the responsibility to conduct security clearance investigations. Because what could possibly go wrong with that? Okay, so that's all the stuff that he has accomplished so far completely. Let's look at the stuff that's in progress. All right. End data collection on gender identity. And the note here says Trump's executive order forbids the federal government from recognizing genders other than female and male, which I've pointed out, both that, that biological sex is on a spectrum because intersex people exist. And I believe that's the executive order that rendered everybody female. So there's that. Promote fertility awareness-based methods as opposed to contraception for family planning. Oh, goody, goody, we're back to the rhythm method. That's not how this works. Or abstinence only? I have no idea. All right. Reduce regulations on cryptocurrencies. All right. Oh, let me go back to the fertility awareness-based methods. The CDC has taken down websites that contain contraception guidance because we certainly wouldn't want people to have access to contraception information. And then people will bitch and complain about, well, why didn't they use protection? You have to know protection exists, and you have to have access to protection. This administration is trying to curtail contraception. So women are in a catch-22. They can't access the contraception they need or the information they need on contraception to not get pregnant. And if they do get pregnant, well, they're shit out of luck if things go wrong. So, yeah, there is that. Okay, reduce regulations on cryptocurrencies. And the note here says Trump ordered the creation of a crypto working group to draft new regulations. Okay, how can there be any fewer regulations on cryptocurrencies? I thought that was the selling point, that they weren't regulated. Anyway, abolish the Consumer Protection Bureau because nothing says we care about the consumer than scrapping a bureau that is meant to protect the consumer. And the note here says Trump that all CFPB staff were ordered to halt work and communications, nearly 200 staff laid off. All right, stop funding for NPR and PBS. This has been a Republican's dream for a long time. Note Trump's FCC ordered an investigation into the funding of NPR and PBS. Now, they get very little funding from the federal government. Most of their funding comes from organizations, nonprofits, and from viewers. That's why they have countless telethons and radiothons throughout the year. It seems like every time you turn around, they're asking for money because they don't get enough support from the federal government. So I'm not sure. I guess that the investigation isn't about the funding, but they maybe are hoping that they could bully NPR and PBS the way they've bullied every other organization. Reinstate Trump's executive order to manage wildfires by reducing vegetation and increasing logging. Okay. Trump rescinded a Biden-era executive order that prioritized conservation strategies in wildfire prevention. Okay. Now, he says he wants to reduce vegetation. His administration fired those people. How in the world are you supposed to prevent wildfires when you fire the very people who are working to prevent wildfires? And increased logging? Do you honestly think that if there are no trees, that there will be no fire. Because, it's not like grass exists or anything. I'm not sure what the hell is happening here. Eliminate the low income heat and energy assistance program. Right, because we want poor people to freeze to death. I mean, we want them to freeze to death or broil, depending on where they live. It's not like we want them to actually survive. The best way to deal with poor people is to just make them go away. And not in the good sense of giving them money, but, making it impossible for them to pay their bills. Break up the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Let's see. Trump administration ordered NOAA-sponsored studies halted. NOAA staff have reportedly been threatened with mass layoffs of 50% of the workforce and 30% of the budget. Does he really think that he can change hurricane trajectories with a Sharpie? Because that's what we're going to end up with. If we don't have NOAA, basically what we're going to have is Trump with a Sharpie telling people where hurricanes are going and changing the trajectory if he doesn't like what the hurricane's actually doing, as if he can do that. Maybe he'll get someone dumb enough to nuke it. I really have no idea what he thinks is going to happen here. That weather won't hit the U.S. because there's nobody to report it. Tighten export control regulations. All right, and Trump ordered the Commerce Secretary to review the United States export control system and advise on modifications. I don't know what that means. I assume that's related to tariffs, but I have no idea. Expel transgender people who are currently serving in the military because, again, we have an abundance of military personnel, so let's just kick people out. All right. Cut off federal funds to states, cities, counties, school boards, principals, and teachers who disagree with parental rights. And the note here says Trump's executive order allows the Education Department to rescind funds from schools that affirm transgender and non-binary students. Now I'm confused. What if the parents actually support their trans and non-binary kids? How is that not parental rights? Pick one. Do you care about parental rights, or are you just claiming parental rights as a cudgel to do whatever horribleness you want? Break up the Department of Education, and that's reportedly in progress. I wonder if he'll get rid of it before or after his appointee gets a hearing. Okay, roll back Biden-era student loan forgiveness and income-driven repayment regulations. So the note says, in part achieved last year by right-wing judges blocking Biden's student loan programs. And, for people who whine that, someone's going to pay for it, or I paid off my student loans, number one, the student loans have gotten really obnoxious in the what they charge. These have become so predatory. When you were in school, most likely you could pay back your loans. I mean, it might have been a bit of a hardship, but it wasn't impossible. We are now dealing with people who find it impossible to live and to pay back their student loans. Something's got to give. Um, so yeah. Oh, and then there are all those people like Marjorie Taylor Greene who had her PPP loans forgiven during the pandemic. Now tell me why you have no problem with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's actually rich, from having her loans forgiven, but poor students who are just trying to not start off in a massive hole that they will never be able to dig out of in their lives, why one is okay and one isn't. Anyway, limit subsidized renewables. And the note says, in part achieved by stopping the disbursement of IRA and IIJA funding, which again was already allocated. So totally illegal. And of course, we don't want to subsidize renewables because we don't want to do renewables. We want to fill up our landfills till the country is one big landfill. And eliminate the Office of Grid Deployment. And the note here says Trump's administration has laid off employees at the Grid Deployment Office. So I guess we want to have the grid fail. I guess that's what I'm reading. I mean, seriously, why would you want to eliminate the Office of Grid Deployment? Do you want people to, well, since we've already ensured that cyber criminals can hack us to whatever extent they want, I guess now they want to make it easier for them to hack the grid too? I'm not sure what they think they're accomplishing here. All right. So, eliminate the Head Start program, which shouldn't surprise people. I mean, that's in progress because let's face it, when they claimed that the important stuff was unfrozen, Head Start was not one of them. All right. Prioritize married father engagement in its messaging, health, and welfare policies. Huh? While not at HHS, we are starting to see the beginnings of this policy in other agencies. The Transportation Department directed money to areas with high marriage and birth rates. Okay, so let's prioritize, let's shoot our messaging about health and welfare policies, which, let's face it, we want to get rid of welfare policies toward the head of the family, which is the father. I mean, obviously the married man is the head of the family and the breadwinner, and, we live in Cleaverville. Revoke guidance that prohibited adoption/foster agencies from discriminating based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Right, because we don't want gay couples or trans couples to adopt because kids might grow up to actually possess empathy, and we certainly wouldn't want that. I mean, who wants to live in a world where people have empathy for others? No, we want them to hate the same people we hate. All right. There was something else I wanted to mention. Oh, yes, about eliminating Head Start. For those who don't know, that's for low-income families, so their children can go to school and catch up on skills that they need just to be successful in kindergarten. I mean, this isn't a huge thing. It's not like they're, developing Einsteins. They just want to get people to the starting line. So, yeah. All right. Withdraw Biden-era guidance that retail pharmacies must dispense abortion medication and contraception. And the note here says the administration is deleting this information from HHS websites. So, oh goody, now if you go to the local pharmacy, if the pharmacist thinks that you're a skank just simply because you need an abortion, or heaven forbid, you might want contraception because you want to plan your pregnancy, well, we can't have that now, can we? No. Women should just, be what they were meant to be, which is a glorified blow-up doll and breeder. That is, you're just a glorified blow-up doll and glorified incubator. Those are your only goals in life. That's all you are good for. So you just have to accept that. All right. Withdraw Biden-era guidance that strengthened HIPAA protections for reproductive care. And let's see, what lovely did he do for this? The administration is deleting this information from the HHS websites. All right. Because, people don't need to have their reproductive health care just amongst them and their doctor and whomever they choose to share their journey with. No. We should know about everybody's periods, everybody's ectopic pregnancies. We need to know about everybody's endometriosis. We need to know about when people go into menopause. We need to know everything about a woman's life. Cool. Eliminate most of DHS's grant programs. And it says here, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem froze all grants to non-governmental organizations. Shift the majority of FEMA's preparedness and response costs to states and localities. And like I've mentioned, the reason FEMA exists is because states don't have the ability to respond to disasters. I mean, you saw that FEMA ran out of money because of how many disasters there were. And you want state and local governments to foot the bill? Yeah, that's going to end well. All right. Department of Homeland Security repealed TPS designations. Trump ended TPS protections for Venezuelans, is moving up the TPS expiration date for Haitians. So TPS is temporary protective status. And so, of course, he ended it for Venezuelans because as far as he's concerned, all Venezuelans are part of a gang. And all Haitians eat dogs and cats. So, yeah, let's just get rid of them. Create a single nationwide detention standard that includes the flexibility to use large numbers of temporary facilities such as tents. And the note says the administration is reportedly in talks to use shipping containers to house detained immigrants. And I don't think it's going to be a furnished, nice shipping container. I doubt that they would think that far. So, prosecute local officials, including district attorneys, that use their discretion not to prosecute a criminal case. So, note DOJ leaders told U.S. attorneys to investigate law enforcement officials who declined to enforce Trump's immigration priorities. And it should come as no surprise that that's what they mean by prosecute local officials, including district attorneys, that use their discretion not to prosecute a criminal case. Not because it's a criminal case, but it's something that Trump wants. And if it's something that Trump wants, everybody should just drop whatever they're doing and do what Trump wants. We couldn't possibly live in a world where there are other priorities other than Trump. Eliminate all existing DOJ consent decrees. DOJ has frozen all consent decrees finalized within the last 90 days and paused all civil rights litigation. So that's great. That's great. I don't know what they mean by consent decrees, but that my brain went immediately to the rapey stuff. So, yeah. And civil rights litigation, they're basically saying that, the only thing we care about are white men. So it all comes down to straight, cis white men. Cut off DOJ grants to states, localities that do not cooperate with Trump's immigration plans. Yeah, that sounds right. And the note here says the DOJ created a sanctuary cities enforcement working group to identify state and local laws that clash with executive branch immigration initiatives. All right. Approve the Ambler Road project proposal for a 211-mile industrial access road and is intended to facilitate the development of at least 4 large-scale mines. Right, because that doesn't scream an environmental hazard. Trump reinstated his first administration's impact reviews of the project, which were more favorable than Biden's. Of course it was, because we have to please Trump, and if what Trump wants is mines, we've got to give him reports that belly that fact. End federal mandate and subsidies of electric vehicles. Oh, I'm sure Elon would love that. I mean, that's the big thing with Teslas is the EVs and self-driving, but... So the note here is Transportation Department suspended funding from the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program. So I guess Trump isn't just lying down and doing everything in favor of Musk. So I guess that's good, but in the worst way. All right. End financial support and withdraw from the OECD. And the note here says Trump withdrew from the OECD's global tax deal. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to say that it was... I know that for a while there, Janet Yellen was suggesting a minimum corporate tax rate. And I guess that's what that's involved, that he wants to be able to make money anywhere and not have to worry about, everyone has the same tax rate, minimum tax rate, so I can only go to certain places. I don't know. But that wouldn't surprise me. Reverse the Inflation Reduction Act's expansion of the IRS, which, again, we mentioned about the layoffs. And let's face it, I've mentioned this before, this is fewer IRS agents means that the rich tax cheats can continue being tax cheats, because their taxes are usually much more complicated. So it's easier to go after the tax cheats who are poorer because their taxes aren't as complicated, so it's easier to catch. All right. Require the FAA to operate more like a business. Okay, what could possibly go wrong? So Trump said on February 6th that private companies will be building a new air traffic control system. Yeah, that's not going to go wrong at all. No, not at all. I mean, if it turns out that private companies do a better job with air traffic control, that would be great. I'm not immediately saying it can't be done, but do I trust them? No. No, I don't trust anything that Trump does. I always expect that the other shoe is going to drop at some point. That even stuff that sound good is going to turn to shit. All right. Sunset the Office of Accountability and Whistleblower Protection. According to a leaked memo, the VA deactivated coursework on whistleblower rights and protections. Right, because again, we can't have corruption if people are going to call us on it. Because if you think that Trump actually cares about catching corruption, he doesn't. He doesn't actually want to catch corruption, waste, abuse, whatever. He wants to create it for himself. All right. Eliminate energy efficiency standards for appliances. Right, because why would we want to be energy efficient? Let's just waste energy because we have one life to live and who gives a fuck about future generations? Who cares if our kids have a less comfortable future than we had? I mean, people like Trump will be dead. He won't care. At least God only hopes that he will be dead because, oh my God. And people like him. All right. Institute a pause and review of all grants. And in part achieved by freezing the disbursements and the overall federal funding freeze. So, yeah, let's just, most people, most competent people can review things while programs are ongoing, but these people are so incompetent they have to stop it. But let's face it, they wanted to actually do the pause because they want to be cruel. Downsize the department by terminating newest hires and relocating career employees to other agencies. And that's the EPA, which that should come as a surprise to absolutely nobody because, in order to pollute to your little heart's content and to ignore climate change, you got to get rid of the EPA. So, end housing first policies. And it says HUD has removed housing first policies from their website. And housing first basically means that in order to help the homeless crisis, that we need to get them into housing. Now, that doesn't mean that's the end all be all, that once they have houses, that they're on their own. But the best way to get people back on their feet is to get them in housing, and then you can help them with whatever other issues they have, whether it be employment issues, whether it be substance abuse issues, but you cannot help them with their other issues until you get them into stable housing. Anyway, transition to using artificial intelligence to analyze information. And that's starting to be implemented in other departments. Musk's team wants an AI-first approach through all of government. Okay, now, this is with the intelligence community. Now, the problem with this is that AI is great for certain things. I mean, we know that AI is good for certain things. It doesn't replace human beings in every endeavor. So, now, is Musk doing this because he's an AI guy? Absolutely. That's why he has a feud with Sam Altman. He wants OpenAI for himself because because Sam Altman jilted him, and he wants to have people go to his AI, Grok. And it's telling that almost everything that Don Tesla related that he has created is all monosyllabic. That says a lot. Anyway. Alright. Weaken federal employee unions. That should come as no surprise because you can't screw over employees if they are part of a union. Cut budget of USAGM. Alright. That's U.S. Agency for Global Media. You know, of course, we wouldn't want people to know what's happening in the U.S. So Elon Musk tweeted his support for shutting down USAGM outlets Voice of America and Radio Free Europe. Because of course he did. Because again, we certainly wouldn't want people to get independent, good sources of information. No, we wouldn't want that. We want to just mindlessly drool and believe whatever the government tells us. Because, you know, that's what they want. They want to be completely in charge of your reality. Use the Congressional Review Act to undo Biden-era final rulemakings. And the House passed a bill that would allow Congress to review multiple CRA-eligible final rules in a single joint resolution of disapproval. I assume that this is executive orders that Biden issued while he was going out the door. I assume that's what that means. Okay, so that is the end of the in progress stuff. I'm not going to get into the not started stuff because I'm already almost 2.5 minutes in and I still have over 160 objectives. So I don't want to keep going. I will just go over the in progress stuff as more things get added. So I can only tell you that all the objectives, now the objectives overall are 35% done. There's 295 total objectives, 84 have been done, and 41 are in progress. That's why this took forever to go through. And I can tell you that the objectives for USAID are completely done. 89% done is the Department of State, and 88% done are the White House objectives. And those are the only two that are close to being done. So, yeah. The dismantling of the government is going on at a wonderful breakneck pace. Granted, how much will get done before the midterms, I do not know. And if they've screwed over the election security, God only knows what's going to happen in the midterm elections, because you can no longer assume that these are going to be free and fair elections anymore. So anyway, I believe that is all I have for this extremely long video. And so with that, I will see you guys in the next one, whether that be a new article or something got added to the project 2025 tracker, a new objective is in progress, or whatever it is. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.